Welcome back to the City. I'm Anthony Wilson, the Public Information Officer for the City of San Angelo. And joining us today is Bob Salas. He is the Director of our Neighborhood and Family Services Department. He's here to talk about the annual Neighborhood Blitz that city employees conduct. Bob, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, explain, what is the Blitz?
Well, actually, the Blitz is really a chance for the city employees to give back to the community, first and foremost. Secondly, we close down the non-critical services and offices, and the employees go out into the neighborhoods and they clean up, they paint, and they do special projects. This is part of our neighborhood revitalization plan, which, by the way, happens to be on the net. It's this thing here, and people can look at it and read it and see what basically what we're after. And this is part and parcel of that plan.
It's a neighborhood revitalization effort. This year it happens on April the 26th.
It is.
Talk about what's specifically going to be happening with this year's Blitz.
This year's a little bit different. This is our fifth one, by the way. We have a lot of volunteers from the community that are actually going to paint a lot of the houses. We picked 31 houses, and then the city employees are going to be working on special projects. We're going to have a group working on the northern Little League field. We're going to have a group working on the riding trails near the river. We're going to have a group working on Harmon Park. We're going to have a couple of groups working on weatherizing some fences along the Blackshear area. This year we did pick Blackshear as the area of concern of interest, and that's where we're going to be focusing our efforts.
Talk a little bit about the neighborhoods that have been addressed in the past and the work that has occurred during those previous efforts.
Sure. The plan, the neighborhood revitalization plan, we identified 4 neighborhoods that we thought needed to be targeted for revitalization. They are Blackshear, Reagan, Fort Concho, and Rio Vista. We try to basically harness all the resources. We try to target the resources in those areas to revitalize them, of course.
And how did this project get us started in the initial stages?
Well, actually, it started, I think, in 2009. The then city manager, Harold Dominguez, his wife actually had the idea, and she passed it on to him. He passed it on to me, and at that point, it's history. We started the effort. We started with Reagan with only 12 houses. It was just a day event, and there were some lessons learned there. For example, we had 25 people in one house, and we found out that was way too many. We've kind of worked our projects to kind of fit the manpower available.
And how do you go about choosing the homes, the neighborhoods, and the special projects that you are going to be addressing?
Well, we actually first, we work with a citizen, grassroots citizen group called WTOS, and what they do for us, they go out and canvass the neighborhood, and they provide, and then by doing that, they provide us some requirements, and they look and see what areas need to be worked on. At that point, they give us just basically a vector, and then we do a windshield survey with my staff, and then we go once we identified the areas, the specific neighborhoods and streets, we actually go door to door and we knock on doors and ask if they want to participate.
And with the special projects that you've addressed in the past, how were those chosen? And talk a little bit about some of the other projects in the past that have been addressed.
Well, we actually, one year, we actually had so many volunteers that we had to find other projects because we only had so many houses to paint. And then we actually had some folks come up with some ideas. One of them was to paint the rec centers. And we did that. We did the South Side Rec Center and the Carl Ray Rec Center. We painted the inside. Then we had another, then we had an idea to work on the Lakeview Little League field, and because the city actually maintains those fields, and it would be we thought it would be a good idea to basically spruce it up a little bit, and that's what we did.
And that's actually a school property, and the school district partnered with us in providing a lot of the materials for the sprucing up of those fields.
They did, absolutely. So it allowed us really to do more with the materials we did have and the resources we did have.
Getting back to the main thrust, which was initially painting homes and sprucing up neighborhoods, It's an amazing number, I think, the number of homes that have been addressed and the amount of junk that has been hauled away from these neighborhoods. Yes. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, actually, I got some numbers here. The first 5 blitzes, we've actually collected over 700 tons of junk and debris. We painted over 120 homes. And then we did, of course, we did the rec centers, and we fixed porches on Fort Concho. We repaired the fences at Little League fields, those kind of things. So a great haul of junk and stuff, in the past. And if you look around those neighborhoods, you'll see it's much cleaner. We have less code compliance issues in those areas. So it's all part of the neighborhood revitalization.
And how is all this effort funded, and where do a lot of the supplies come from for the painting of houses, for instance?
Well, actually, most of the resources are from grants already committed to the city. We have the Community Development Block Grant. We have local grants, and then we also have nonprofits that participate with us. For example, Habitat for Humanity through their Brush with Kindness program. They provided all the paint. We have citizen groups that provide food for us, water. Vendors provide ice and those kind of things. So there's no cost, no additional cost to the city.
And in recent years, this effort has expanded to include an extra day that has some volunteers and some help from outside of our organization, but from within the community. And talk a little bit about that. Sure.
It grew. After the first couple of times we did it, we had such good response from the community that it turned out that we actually needed 2 days. So Friday is the day for the city employees. We go out there and do our thing. And then on Saturday, we actually have the ASU football team. We have Goodfellow Air Force Base military personnel. And then we have churches that belong to the West Texas Organizer Strategy. And they bring about 400 volunteers, and they end up doing the painting of some of the houses. This year, they're going to do the painting of all the houses, while the city does the special projects.
And I think one of the side benefits of this effort is that within our own organization, it actually helps build a lot of camaraderie, and you actually get to interact with a lot of people that you normally wouldn't through your normal work duties. Talk a little bit about how that works.
Well, actually, a lot of the employees think it's a great idea. They do enjoy meeting new folks who they normally wouldn't. For example, someone that works in administration in an office somewhere would never get a chance to meet someone from Street and Bridge. In this case, we partner them together randomly, and so they get to meet some folks in the city who normally would. And some of the folks who actually work on the Street and Bridge, or the laborers, if you will, for them it's just another day. It's nothing special for them as much as it is for office personnel.
Now, I know that you've heard this criticism before, and I want you to address it. The fact that city government is actually out in these neighborhoods, and in some instances painting homes that are owned by private citizens, and that's a role that government should not be playing. How do you respond to those sort of criticisms?
Well, the way you look at it is a little differently. The way you look at it is that we are revitalizing a neighborhood. We're not helping an individual, and that's a little different outlook. And by doing that, you actually increase property values. That affects the city. It reduces crime, which affects the city. So we're actually doing a service for the city, not individual people. That's how you look at it. There's other programs to do that. And I think in the long term, we'll see an economic benefit from all the efforts we've done in the past, because a clean city with low crime will attract businesses and those kind of things. So I think it's good for the city.
And do you see a ripple effect when you paint a few homes on a street where their neighbors decide, you know what, I'm going to get out and spruce up my place a little bit so that it doesn't look quite as bad in comparison to my neighbor's place?
Absolutely. In fact, about a couple years back, we answered that question through a study. It's called the Ripple Effect of Neighborhood Revitalization. And in this plan, or in this study, we went out and tried to identify the effects of neighborhood revitalization, to include individuals on their own going out and getting permits to fix their homes, the reduction in crime and those kind of things. And in fact, we've proven that the revitalization efforts that we've undertaken, which includes the neighborhood blitz, are affecting positive changes in San Angelo.
And do you expect this effort is one that's going to continue into the future?
I hope so. It kind of depends on some factors. One is there's less houses to work on now because we've done so much over the last 3 or 4 years, which is a good thing, of course. Funding availability with sequester and some of the other kind of funding cuts, our grants get cut, and therefore it's harder to get funds. Same with our nonprofit partners. So we hope it continues. It may be changed to something else, perhaps less houses and more city properties, those kind of things. So
It's fair to say the City Council, though, has been very supportive of this effort.
they have. They've been very supportive of all the revitalization efforts that we do, because I think they see a benefit, like most people. Hopefully, most people do.
Now, if someone is out there and they would like to contribute to this effort in some form or fashion, how can they go about doing that?
Well, for this blitz, it's probably a little bit too late, but for future blitzes, tell them to call me, 655-0824.
We've been talking with Bob Salas. He is the director of our Neighborhood and Family Services Department. When we return, we will be speaking with Lisa Marley. She is the director of our Human Resources Department. But first, we're going to spotlight another outstanding city employee.
My name is Gabriel Esquivel. I've worked for the city about 4 years. As a mechanic, we work on anything as far as police equipment, police cars, patrol cars, city vehicles. It could be trucks, regular cars, and also lawnmowers for Parks Department, or as for dump trucks for Street and Bridge. I mean, there's a variety of different stuff. There could be sewer stuff, big vacuum trucks, or as tractors, backhoes, motor graders. I mean, it's pretty much everything. Weed eaters, everything. Actually, I was a parts clerk, and then I applied for the mechanic job, and I had got it. So I got the job. So I mean, that's what I went to school for. If we have a problem, I mean, I like to figure out what's wrong with it. If it's something electrical, I mean, of course, we have to go through the pinpoint tests and just something that like it's going to be hard to fix, but I mean eventually we figure out what's wrong with it. I mean, that's what I like about my day. It's a little challenging, even though I went to school for just automotive and then working with diesels, so it's kind of like you're learning as you're fixing. So I mean, they're kind of like the basic concept, but it's a little different. So it is a little challenging to go from a police car to a tractor or a backhoe or something like that. I mean, it is challenging, but after you've done it so many times, like you eventually start to learn the system. You start to know a little bit more about it. As much as if you worked on police cars, and all of a sudden you get like more backhoes coming in, you're starting to work on them more, you're starting to know a little bit more about it. So it kind of makes it a little bit easier for you because you're starting to work on it more. So it's very cool to work on those cars to me. Like I've always grown up to be a mechanic. That's what I've always wanted to do, and then to also fix police cars as well. I was a little kid, so I mean it's kind of cool. I like working on it and to see all the equipment they have in it and the lights and all that. So it's pretty cool. Like now these days, like you have to reprogram computers inside your vehicle to get a problem fixed. It is an ongoing thing where computer technology is coming in a lot more than it was like 10 or 20 years ago. So it is a big deal for us, but we're learning and we're fixing them as we can go. I think people are surprised how young I am. I know I went to school for mechanics at UTI in Houston, Texas, and for how much knowledge that I know, and how young I am to like fix cars. Like usually young guys are still learning as we go, but I'm pretty knowledgeable of what's going on or what to do. And from there, as far as computer technology too, I mean, I think like 1 or 2 guys know how to do it, but they always come to me because I always know how to do the computer side of it and reprogramming. So I mean, I have an advantage a little bit, but I like to help everybody out. So I lived in San Angelo my whole life. I've grown up and raised here, so like when I went to school over there, it was totally different from San Angelo, and I know it was a bigger city here, but I had to come back. I mean, I was born and raised here, and I like San Angelo here because I have majority of my family here, and so I love to be where my family's at. I watch sports, and sometimes I work on the family car because, of course, I am a mechanic. So they'll call me up and ask me if they need my help, so I go help them out. So I'm either on my spare time working on the car, or or either I'm with my son and my wife, or just at home having family time. Go to the park, you know, do the family thing. Good day at work is when we got everything fixed, and I mean everything comes in and out. But when we have everything pretty much fixed for the day, I mean it's awesome. And like if there's something that's challenged us from not getting something done, or if we're having a problem with, we actually got it done that day. So as a little kid, like I said, I wanted to be a mechanic, and that's what I set my goal to, is to be a mechanic. For the city also too, it's also great too that I got it with the city, because the experience with the city is, I mean, I'm learning everything. I know I went to school for just automotive, but that's what I've always wanted to do, is just work on cars or even diesels and all that. I mean, it's a challenge for me, but that's always what I've always wanted to do as I was a little kid. So.
Welcome back. We are joined now by Lisa Marley. She is the director of our Human Resources Department, and she's here to talk about hiring on with the city. Lisa, thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it.
First, give us a little primer. How many full-time employees does the city have?
Well, we have presently 850 full-time and a little over 100 part-time employees.
And I assume that those jobs just run the full gamut of everything that the city needs, from accountants to mechanics.
That is absolutely true. On any given day, you never know what our vacancies are going to look like, but they're typically going to be our entry-level positions throughout the city, and that can be as an administrative assistant in an office or a maintenance worker out in the field.
Is there a particular skill at this moment in time that seems to be most in demand by the city?
I wouldn't say that there was necessarily a skill type that we're predominantly looking for, but we're always looking for people that can fill an entry-level position. Generally speaking, folks will come to us with many skills already in place, and then it's up to us to figure out what a good match is for them. Many times applicants will come in and ask us for what positions are open, and we can spend some time with them telling them what we've got and try to match them up with something in their interest level.
Well, and how is the best way for someone who is interested in perhaps landing a job with the city to go about finding what the job openings are?
Okay. Obviously we post them once a week. We generally put them up on Fridays, and we put them on our website, the sanangelotexas.us. And then we also will oftentimes advertise them on Channel 17, or we will put them in the paper. Depending on the type of job they are, that will dictate to us the type of advertising that we do for it. So generally speaking, I would say our website, or stop by City Hall and pick up a listing.
And once they find a job opening that they may be interested in, then what's the process of going about actually applying for that job?
Okay. We have an electronic application process where they can go online and complete an application there, and it will serve for any position that we've got open. And then certainly we do accept paper applications that we have in our building, and we can do it either one of those two ways.
And once that application's been turned in, then walk us through the hiring process after that. What happens after the application's been turned in?
Okay. When they complete an online application, when they submit what job that they're applying for, it goes directly to the hiring authority, to that department. If they submit a paper application, then we would send that over to the department. Once that happens, then the supervisors, when they have either the closing date has been reached or they've got an applicant pool that they're satisfied with, then they'll begin the interview process. Once they interview the employees and select the best candidate to meet their needs, then they notify Human Resources, and we will contact the applicant to set up a physical for them. Depending on the type of work that it is, it may involve one of two physicals, either just a standard administrative type physical or one that actually tests their abilities to lift, particular amounts of a lift. And there are other jobs that require really difficult physical backgrounds, because they have to be able to do very strenuous work, and so we've got different types of physicals that they have to go through. All of them involve a drug screen, and once we get those results back, then we process a date for them to start, and we go forward from there.
With the interview process itself, all of our interviews are group interviews, correct?
Well, not necessarily. A lot of our higher level jobs are going to involve a panel, and that's up to the hiring department to decide whether or not they want to use a panel or go at it individually. For many of our entry-level jobs in the field, let's say, those are done strictly by the department head or the division director.
Now, the process is different for our civil servants, that is our police officers and firefighters, right?
Yes, it is. There's a much different process for civil service positions. Since San Angelo is a civil service community, we have to follow the state laws as it applies to those positions. So for all of our fire positions and all of our police positions, those require a civil service entrance examination. And we generally schedule those twice a year. And then those are done, it's a half a day process where they'll take an actual written exam. And then from there they'll go through a physical assessment where they go through some different testing on whether or not they can do push-ups and pull-ups and that sort of thing. And then after that process, it really takes over at the department level. They will be doing very, very difficult background checks on these folks. It goes all the way back to when you were in elementary school, and they talk to your neighbors, and they really look into your background, because our civil service employees quite oftentimes involve going into the homes of our citizens. And so that we have to have a certain level of approval for those folks to be able to do that. And so there's a very strenuous background. Then there's oral board interviews that they have to go through, where there's usually 10 to 12 people that are grilling them on different questions and looking into their backgrounds, their criminal history, any type of background that you can imagine we would be looking into for those positions. So that process takes generally 6 months. It's a very long, drawn-out process. Intentionally so, because it's a really a difficult position to fill. We need people who really have squeaky clean backgrounds, and that we feel confident giving them the responsibility to be able to interact with our citizens at that level.
And if you are chosen to be a part of either the firefighters or the police academy, then you are actually a city employee at that point. You get paid as you're being trained for those jobs, which isn't the case for all municipalities.
That's correct. Actually, they have an academy. Both of the departments have an academy that you go through. The process in each department is different, but some of them last as long as a year in the academy. And so during the whole time that you're going through the academy, you are a paid employee as a rookie or a recruit. And then there's a graduation process at the end of that, and then you actually hit the streets and are a full-time employee at that point.
Now, I don't have to tell you, but obviously the economy is improving, and especially with all the activity that we're seeing in the oil field, more workers are in demand, particularly those who are good with their hands. So when you're facing that level of competition for employees, what is the case that you generally make to people about why the city is a good employer to work for?
Well, you know, we used to always say benefits and that was a big deal, and it still is. Most of the people that are going out to work in the oil field are going into work strictly for the wages. Yes, it pays very well, except that you don't get any of the fringe benefits usually. Sometimes they're lucky enough to get insurance, but I think as a whole, the working for the city, you have a wonderful benefits package. Predominantly, it's the insurance packages that are wonderful, but then there's also a very, very good retirement plan. We're part of the Texas Municipal Retirement System, and so it is a very good retirement system. And so employees seem to be, or applicants sometimes can be drawn by the salary, but it's a total picture that you like to look at. And our benefits, you know, we get sick leave and vacation leave, and then we also get holidays, which a lot of times you don't get those when you work out in the oil field. So,
well, and also too, do you think that employees are drawn by the sense of stability in working for the city? Obviously, the oil field has its ups and downs, and also just the chance to serve the public. Does that have some appeal to applicants?
Oh, absolutely. And we see that a lot in our civil service positions, that it is a calling. It is a position that employees or people will find themselves in, that they want to give back to the community, and that's very strong. You can see that in our workforce. You know, there's not a lot of jobs where that are in the private sector that citizens get to thank you, and so these are good things, and employees really like that. They like the idea that the position is stable, that we're secure, that we have a city, we're always going to be here, and so that is a big draw for employment.
You've been a really strong advocate for ensuring that city employees have competitive pay wages. Mm-hmm. What has the Human Resources Department done in order to try to advocate for that and try to ensure that we are competitive, not only with the private sector, but with other municipalities?
Well, we participate in 2 statewide salary surveys on an annual basis, and those cover all cities within the state. But then on top of that, we do our own surveys of the cities that we've determined are comparable in size and so forth. And so we do those salary surveys annually. Obviously, our wages are all paid by taxpayer dollars, and so you have to weigh out salaries with a lot of the other improvements that we have to do to the city. And so we try to keep salaries on the forefront and make sure that we stay as competitive as we can be with other municipalities. It's difficult for us to try to compare ourselves to the private sector, but because so many of our jobs don't transfer over to the private sector very well. But the fact that our salaries are paid by the citizens, it's just very, very important for us to keep that in mind when we look at the big picture. The city does so many things, and it's important that everyone understands that we have to have our employees in order to be able to fulfill those tasks.
I happen to think too that there is a sense of camaraderie among city employees, and that is attractive to the employees themselves. I mean, would you agree with that?
Absolutely, I agree 100%. We have a family of employees, and it sounds kind of silly to say that with 800 and some odd employees, but there is just a common bond that we're all here to serve the public, and it makes us all part of one family, and you do feel that. Employees jump at the chance to help another employee, and if we have an employee that's in need, generally employees will come forward to do whatever they can do to help out a fellow employee.
Now, if someone wants some more information about working for the city, what's the best way that they can go about getting that?
Well, certainly I would check the website at sanangelotexas.us. Or you can stop by City Hall. We're located on the 2nd floor, and it's totally accessible to the public. Just come see us, and we'll be happy to give you some information.
We've been talking with Human Resources Director Lisa Marley, and we hope you'll be back for the next episode of The City.